I may have said that yesterday, but if you do it more than 3 times, let Photoshop take care of it. Hello again, Stefan here. I hope you're doing well. This is episode number 2 this week, with another one coming tomorrow. And we're still talking about actions in Photoshop. So without all the blah, 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 let's jump in. Well, yesterday we started with the amazing eyes and gaze of Alina. So why not stick to the concept? And this is the absolutely beautiful Morgan. Anyway, we start pretty much where we left off yesterday. We've created a dodge and burn action, an automatic dodge and burn action, and the whiten teeth action. And they're neatly arranged here. So let's continue with our quest to automate Photoshop. So why don't we start with this image here? And one of the things that is a little bit controversial. Some people love it, some people hate it, and that is watermarking. So why don't we create an action that creates a watermark for us? So as you can see here, I usually create those empty actions or those empty slots just so that everything aligns nicely. The way to do this, in case you want to do that as well, is to simply create an action, hit record, then stop it straight away again and just rename it a space. So if you now go into the button mode, you see that we now have this empty action that doesn't do anything. So it's just a placeholder. Now, if we would like to have those in between here, well, we just click on this one here. We go up into the menus, duplicate. We give that a space as a name again. We'll duplicate it again and again. Just give it a space of a name. Now, as we discussed all the different steps yesterday, I will not go into too much detail of creating, recording, stopping, and so on and so forth. We've discussed that in length yesterday. So create a new action. Let's call this Watermark. Give it a color. Let's say we make that blue. And we need a text. We click somewhere in the top left corner. We want this action to work on any kind of image. The only guarantee we have is that the upper left is always 0, 0 in terms of coordinates. We have no idea how wide future images are or how tall future images are that we run this action on. So best bet is to be in the top left corner. Pick a color that is somewhere in the gray, middle gray, for our text. It then works on black images as well as it works on images with a very bright background. So now it's a question of what you type in. So in this case, call it sbweekly.tv. So the question is, where do we want this text to be placed? If you submit images for review to a client, you might want to have a watermark right smack in the center of your image, saying something like, please don't use until purchased, or whatever you want to do. Or if you have your signature or whatever, you might want it in the bottom right corner. That's entirely up to you. So why don't we, in this case, place it smack bang in the center? We want to make sure this will work no matter the dimensions of the photo. Pretty simple. You select the entire canvas with Command A, then make sure you have the Move tool selected, and up in the menu bar, you will see the alignment tools. So simply click in the center and click in the center again, and then hit Command D for deselect, and this text will be displayed smack bang in the center. Now, as you can see already, it is very difficult to read, and we want to make sure that in the future we can change the appearance as quickly and as easily as we can, depending on what picture that we use. So I would suggest, rather than picking a specific color, to use the layer styles instead. First thing is to take down the fill opacity completely, and then go into color overlay. Let's say we pick a white, and maybe we set it to 50% or something like that. And then we go to outer glow. We pick a black, maybe at 30%, something like that. And we hit OK. So now this is clearly visible. It's also a little bit transparent, so it's not so intrusive. and our action is pretty much done. So let's try this out. Throw this away, play our action, and there you go. Everything is done. Let's try this on a different image. These are the endless legs of Jessica, and we run that action as well. Beautiful. Works just great. If we now want this to be on the bottom right, does that mean that we have to create another action? Not necessarily. So let's delete this and go back to Morgan. Remove this as well. How about we create an interactive action? Just to make sure that we are in exactly the right spot where we want to be, we play that action. Wonderful. Select the very last step. We go up here and insert a stop action. Here we enter a message. So how about we say something like, click continue to place text bottom right. To make this work, we have to make sure that we tick this little box down here that says allow continue. And we hit OK. So now, as you can see, we have a new thing here in our actions palette or in our actions list, and that is this little box. This little box means that it will ask to enter something before the action continues. Now, you could also click this here as example where we created the text layer. This will then mean that the text is not entered automatically as we've done here, but it will ask us to enter the text, and once we confirm this, it will then continue with the action. So that's a very helpful setting, which we will go into further detail tomorrow when we do frequency separation. And now we continue our action to make sure that this text, should we then click continue, actually moves down here. So we hit record again, select the entire canvas, make sure that we're on the move tool, align to the right and to the bottom, and we hit Command D again to deselect. Now, while the move tool is still selected, I hold the Shift key and click the arrow keys 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and to the left with the Shift key pressed 1, 2, 3, 4, and now it's neatly at the bottom right. So let's stop this recording, throw this away, and see what happens. So let's play that action. Bam, it creates our watermark, smack bang in the center. And now Photoshop asks us, do you want to stop? Well, if we stop, it stays right there. So let's throw this away again, go to the top and play that action again. If we now click continue, it will continue with our action and it places it neatly at the bottom right. So let's go to another image and play that action as well. There you go. Do we want it bottom right? Yes, please. Continue. And there it is. Beautiful. And it does exactly what we want. Now let's try this on a picture with a really bright background. We run this action here. And now you can really see how that glow, that dark glow, helps us to see that white text. Even more so if we then place it in the bottom right. So let's say continue. All right. Well, that is our watermark action. Let's have a look how that looks like in our button mode. We have our actions that we created yesterday. We created our dummy actions or our spaces, and we have our blue watermark action here. How about we create 3 more dummies? Well, let's go back into our button mode. We select one of those dummies, hit the Shift key, click the third one, go up here, say duplicate. We move them below the watermark and we rename all of these 3. There you go. And looking in our button mode, we have a nice spacer yet again. So have fun creating that palette however you like. So the next action that we create will control if a background is perfect white or perfect black, and at the same time create a mask pretty much automatically for us. Doesn't that sound pretty amazing? Why do we do this? This picture here of Emily, it looks like as if the background is perfect white. Truth be told, however, it is not. So if we take a marquee tool and we fill this with perfect white, you will see if we zoom in, the background actually has some tint to it and is not perfect white as this square that we created. Now, why would that be a problem? Let's say we use this image, we create a print file, and we want to integrate this photo into this page. So we copy it, Command 0, we scale it, we move it here, and now we want to integrate some text. As you can see already, we have different colors. So how do we do this? Go back to our photo here, and we create an action so that Photoshop will show us the areas that are not perfect white. It's actually quite easy. Let's create a new action, and we call this check white. Let's say we use something like green. Record. As I said yesterday, generally speaking, we would make sure that we create an action when we already have a ton of layers to make sure that it does jump to the top, and that we would then go into layers and move that layer to the top of the stack. We've explained all of that yesterday, so I will neglect it. Nevertheless, make sure that you do stick to those rules to make sure that it works, or that your action works, no matter what the underlying layers are. So in this case, we'll create a curves adjustment layer. And in our curves adjustment layer, we take the center and we move it all the way to the bottom as far as we can. You see, if you move it too far, it wants to snap into the center again. So just push it as far as you can, and you will see this soup behind it. As always, and as I mentioned a million times yesterday, rename this before you do anything else. Now I need another curves adjustment layer, and I've renamed this. I'll call this step 1. That's a step 1 for our correction. Now I want the white control to be above this. I could theoretically click on the background and then create the step 1, but as I said before, I don't know what kind of layers are below this when I run this action on other photos, so I much rather make sure it always works. So in this case, select the white control layer, layer, arrange, bring to front. Now we'll hold the shift key, select both of them, hold the shift key again, click on the group icon, and I'll call this white background. Now I select the step 1 layer and end this action. So let's throw this away and see if it actually works. Check white, play, and here we go. So now it's up to us to show Photoshop where we believe it should be white. And to do so, we go into the properties of our curve, select the white eyedropper tool, and click where we believe it should be white. Now, as you can see, instantly we get most of it white, but there's still this blue tint to it. So I might have to click somewhere else. I click here. This is better. I click here. That's even better. Pretty much with 2 or 3 clicks, we selected all the white areas, and whatever is black is not selected. Isn't that just amazing? So now that we have this, we need a second action that does something with this whole thing. So why don't we create a new action, and we call this check white final. We also give it a green color, and we say record. So this is the second action, or the action that we would play once we've done this adjustment. So first of all, we select the entire group. Then we go into our channels. We hold down Command and click on RGB. It will create a selection based on the black and white values of our photo. So now we can simply click the layer mask, and our adjustments only apply to the white areas and completely leave Emily alone. Now there's one more important step in here, and that is to switch this white control layer off. When you look in closely, we get all those weird fringes. That comes from that control layer with this absolutely crazy curve. So switch this off and we're good to go. Now we can stop our action. So let's go into our button mode. We have a white check, and then we have the second step, the white check final. So let's throw this away and try it out. There you go. We take our white eyedropper. We find the spot that we believe should be perfect white. Wow, that was a one-click solution. So now we click on the second button here, check white final, and we are done. And this background now is perfect white, and it only applies to this automatic mask that was created. And have a look how accurate that mask is when you see how it masked out those stray hair. It does a pretty amazing and quick job. So let's try this on a black photo. Well, of course, the curve adjustment layer has to be the other way around. Everything else is exactly the same. This, by the way, is the absolutely mesmerizing Christie. Love those eyes. Anyway, let's create the same thing that we've just done for black. We create a new action, check black. The last one was green, so let's make this blue. We create a curves adjustment layer. This time, rather than going down, we're going up. We rename this. We create a second curves adjustment layer. We call this step 1. We select the check layer. We go to layer, arrange, bring to top. We hold the shift key, select both of them. Keep the shift key pressed, click on the group icon, and we stop the action. Now our cameras, they pick up a lot, and even though to our naked eye this looks as if it is a black background, it still picked up a little bit. So if we apply a crazy curve like this one here, we do see what noise or whatever little things are still there. So I'll go to my step 1 layer. Now we use the black eyedropper, and I click somewhere. Now keep clicking until I believe that I got most of it. Now a little bit of that grizzle can stay, of course. Nobody's gonna ever see this, but I think we're pretty close. That already looks far better than this. Now you have to take into consideration that it will eat into darker areas, but don't forget, when you look at that picture without this layer on, this hair is meant to disappear into the shadows, so we're perfectly fine. All right, so this action works. Wonderful. So we have to now create the second one, our final one. So let's create our second action, and we give this a blue color as well. And as we've done before, we have to create our mask. So I select the group, go to channel, hold the command key and click on our RGB, and I go back to our layer stack. Now the moment we hit that mask icon, we have to invert that mask afterwards. When you look at it right now, the bright areas are selected, the black areas are not selected. Well, we want the black areas to be affected and not the actual photo. So when we create that mask, it will look different than what we expect. So what we now have to do is we have to click on the layer mask itself, hit Command I, and now you see that weird grizzle, that green thingy-majig, even better than we saw it with the white, which is the reminder to switch off that check layer. And now you have the perfect black background. Now, while playing with this and showing you this, I forgot to stop the action. So this is something that you have to remember, and maybe the last gotcha in this series. Be very conscious that you are recording certain steps. So if you then record something and go, oh, what would happen if I click this or that and the other? It is still recording. So let's go into our list here and see where our action should have stopped. And that is here where we clicked on Hide Layer Check Black. So that means from here on to the end, we can delete those steps and our action should work just fine. Let's go back into the button mode. And here we have check white and the check white final. And then we have the check black and the check black final. Let's try them out. So we click on check black. Now, as you can see, we forgot one step in our action. It did not select our layer so that we can just pick the eyedropper. So let's add this to our action. Record, and in this case, we go to our step 1, click on the curve to make sure that that is added to our action, and we hit stop. Let's throw this away and test it out again. Wonderful, and our curve is now shown. So we select the black eyedropper, click, click, and now we go to our second, or actually let's go back to our button mode. We click the check black final, and we're done. That is the quickest solution for a perfect white or perfect black background. Well, there you go. Day 2 done, and we do one more tomorrow. And tomorrow we talk about frequency separation. Of course, we don't want to do all those steps required every single time, so we automate it. Another action coming tomorrow. I hope I see you then.